On this episode of AV Week, we look at the FCC's stance on net neutrality and how it may impact some AV systems, working with consultants, and the biggest areas of growth in the world of audiovisual. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 326, recorded Wednesday, November 22nd, 2017. AV Neutrality.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Kramer, AV Beyond the Box, and by HD Base T.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to talk about that very thing, the news and information of the week. First and foremost, my traveling buddy to Barcelona. Her name is Margot Duwahi. She's from AV Technology. How are you, ma'am?
Excellent. Fond memories of Spain.
Absolutely.
New memories in Amsterdam for ISE as well.
Yeah, that's coming up shortly. Actually, like in 3 months, which is scary.
It is my favorite show of the year.
It is mine too. Well, these two gentlemen that are also on with us, they have fond memories, but they also have a lot of work to do. First and foremost, Aviv Ron from Kramer. How are you, sir?
Good to see you, Tim. How are you? I
am well. If you go to ISE, you'll see Aviv. Unless you guys move, you guys will be in Hall 1? Hall
yes,
1.
Same place as ever.
And then the Brady Bruce, who is from In Focus, will be right next door in Hall, is that 2?
Yeah.
2. Yes. How are you, sir?
Doing great, thanks.
Good. Aviv is coming to us from Israel. So the rest of the group, we all get off tomorrow because we're recording this on Wednesday right before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving. But you're not listening to this until next week, so you have some sort of turkey hangover. So I'm sorry. Today might be a little looser than normal because I'm slap happy and yeah. Let's start this off here though, and this is not a happy story for an awful lot of reasons. Personal opinion, but also professional opinion as well. This is from the New York Times. The FCC is opening the door to more consolidation in TV business, and net neutrality has reared its ugly head again. So the Ajit Pai, the head of the FCC, has issued a statement and put forth a proposal to the rest of the commission, saying that we should end the rules and regulations that were put in place under the previous administration to let the ISPs determine what is restricted and what's not. Net neutrality is very confusing, and I'll give everybody that. I will admit to that readily. The best example and the best explanation I've come across to, actually from our buddy Josh Schrago, out actually by Brady. It's this, is currently we have a pretty free and open internet, right? You pay a monthly fee to an internet service provider here in St. Louis. That service provider happens to be, used to be Charter, now there's Spectrum, but, and that's it, right? You have a pipe and that's it. What is the potential of happening, and please don't misunderstand, I'm not saying doom and gloom that come December 15th when the FCC is proposing to lift this, you have to start paying for different services if you want, or the ISPs are going to automatically start blocking certain things. But the potential is there, and that is the fear, right? But the best explanation is, right now, if you paid $100 a month for cable, and then you had to pay for extra packages, so you, on top of that $100, if you wanted sports, right, you got to pay an extra $20 a month. Well, in this scenario, you pay your ISP $100 a month, and if you want social media, right, you want access to Twitter or Facebook or what have you, you would pay an extra fee. That is the potential, okay? Beyond the personal part and the professional part of AVNation, we are an online platform. We make podcasts and shows, and we utilize YouTube and social media. It is the audiovisual part, and then that's actually kind of what I want to get to, because both Brady and Aviv have IP devices, and they have IP products. Margot writes for AV Technology, where the education market is quickly moving to IT. Then you have the video conferencing part. And let's not be mince words here. Video conferencing, unless you're doing it on your own private network, utilizes the internet to get from point A to point B. We are using Zoom to do this very podcast. We are using the internet. And so the potential is there for those devices to stop working or to only work at a premium. Okay. All of that being said, Margot, I really want to start with you on this from both a technology manager standpoint and just from an AV standpoint overall. How big of a deal are some of these moves that the FCC is making?
I don't think we can minimize it in the least, and that's not being alarmist or sensationalist. From online education, there are entire universities that are almost completely online, whether it's an MBA. Of course, we've had a very strong change in the landscape of MOOCs, the massive online open courses. Nonetheless, we're moving more content online, learning management systems, lecture capture, streaming, etc. So that's just one vertical. We're moving so much to online access. So the message is then, if that's a teaching and learning tool, the ability to access content, to stream content, and then having the question of whether we can have a fast lane or a slow lane, or how do we know what will be determined to be throttled or blocked in some way, or even just an impediment. The user experience has to have a level playing field. And I think that's what's in danger right now. I find it to be extremely troubling because when you look at what broadband is, what access to online content is, it's not a privilege. It's not even necessarily, of course, it's sort of counterintuitive, but I don't even think it's a consumer moment. It's an absolute public utility that is of the highest essential nature. Whether you're searching for a job, whether you're, again, going back to just one vertical of online, but say you're, in transportation, you need to know if your train is delayed and you go to the Amtrak app or whatever. Every touch point in our lives are being increasingly tied in through online access. So if we're now at a moment where we're facing that certain ISP providers, Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, et cetera, might have some subjectivity in terms of who gets prioritized, who is accessed on a fast lane, it's extremely troubling. And there are a lot of unknowns. So I don't necessarily want to paint it all with this alarmist brush, but there's simply a question of subjectivity and unknown that's very, very, very concerning.
Yeah. And again, I'm with Margo. I don't want to be an alarmist because, like I said, this is not come December 15th. It's not like they're going to flip a switch and all this dystopian future that a lot of us are concerned about is going to happen. But the potential is there for it to happen in January or maybe in a year or so. Brady, you can take it from either side. I do want to ask you specifically about, Infocus's products and the ones that travel over the internet. What can you guys do? I'm not asking about lobbying, but from a technology standpoint, what can you guys do from somebody who provides services that allow people to connect remotely?
I think all of us on the technology side are concerned about the permissions that the end of net neutrality provides to the ISPs and anybody else on the back end of the internet to allow tiered services, right? My personal opinion is that this could endanger invention and the disruptive things that new companies do to bring cool new products to people like you and me and everybody else listening to this call. We depend in Silicon Valley, all of us in the technology business, on having equal and unfettered access to the internet and to our customers on the other side of the internet. And if an ISP, if a telecom company is able to create different tiers and say, well, these companies will pay one rate, but you other companies, you're going to pay a higher rate. It impedes the ability of companies, potentially impedes the ability of companies to innovate, offer new things to their customers because they're being charged a higher price than some of their competitors might be. That's certainly the danger. Don't know if that's going to happen, but it is an express consequence of the end of net neutrality. Net neutrality levels the playing field for everybody, and their access is the same as everybody else's access to the internet at the exact same speed and at the same prices. The end of net neutrality threatens that.
All right, Aviv, I want to bring you in this because Aviv, just like Brady, has a unique perspective in the fact that first of all, Aviv is in Israel, different internet and different network rules and regulations.
Yeah.
But you guys also sell IP products in different parts of the world where there are different setups, right? So let's talk about we can talk about China, which is the easy one, right? As big dumb Americans, we have a certain viewpoint of the way internet is in China, and I've got friends who have gone to Infocom China, and they have some of them have factories over there. So yeah, there are some restrictions from a censorship standpoint. But one of my good friends is a guy by the name of Chris Netto. He works for Barco. His family is from Portugal, right?
Okay.
Portugal already has this tiered system, right? Where you can pay for extra to have certain access to certain things. How does not just Kramer but any manufacturer work around some of these issues, regardless, where they pop up, whether it's the U.S. or whether it's China or India, which is a big market for you guys?
Yeah, it's tough. We see some blocking issues in places like China, where people are struggling with that. I think some of the cases that around the net neutrality that you guys are talking about, there's a lot we still don't know how it will apply, and what kind of problems we will have to solve. So I think a lot of that is still to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to a friend of at least a friend of the shows and a friend of mine. He's a cool guy. His name is Joey D'Angelo, and Joey has been doing some bouncing around here the last couple of years. He worked for a consulting firm called Salter and Associates. He went and worked for QSC for a little bit. Went to a company called Utiligy. Did some really great things there. And here recently, like in the last 2 weeks, the story is coming to us from Margot's wonderful company, AVNetwork.com. Joey is actually going back out on his own again. And I want to use the quote here that Megan put on here: "New firm to emphasize forward-thinking consulting for forward thinkers." Now, Brady, I'm going to bring you start with you on this one. Not talking about. Well, I do, but that's actually why I wanted to talk about it. I love Joey, and this is not to talk about Joey for 10 minutes here, but for a second here, I want to look at Joey or companies like Joey's, right, and compare them to the old guard consultants, let's say, right? I'm not going to name any names, but there are some long in the tooth, been around, established consulting firms that have done things certain ways for a lot of years. In your or InFocus's opinion, when it comes to dealing with consultants and working with consultants, I shouldn't say dealing, but working with consultants, what are some of the biggest challenges you guys have when you come out with something brand new, right? When you come out with your video conferencing system, right? What are some of the issues that you have with when you start working with some of the older companies that have just been doing the same thing the same way for years?
Look, I think it's the same challenge as anybody introducing a new product has to anyone. I mean, it's education, right? It's making sure that we've done a good job educating our partners, the resellers, dealers, integrators, and consultants about the new product or service offering. That's really incumbent upon us. What excites me are integrators who do two things. One is and consultants listening very, very carefully to what their customers' requirements are, And rather than, sort of delivering a solution which is easy or commonplace, actually go find something that fits, even if it's new, even if perhaps if it's untried. And I think it's that those two things that a consultant does: careful listening, and then sort of deep investigation into what's possible, and perhaps knitting together disparate pieces from different manufacturers. That excites me. We're beyond cookie cutter. It's really fun to have a consultant who innovates, right, and is thinking hard about what that customer has said, listening for meaning that may even be sort of beyond what the customer is able to articulate clearly. Really trying to understand where that customer envisions the future to be, and then going out into that future and bringing back the parts and putting them together in a way that delivers real value.
Yeah, absolutely. Aviv, same kind of question to you. When you're working with consultants and Kramer's is, whether it's a brand new product or maybe it's an addition. You guys released at Infocom the DSP, your brand new step into for you guys.
Yeah.
And I want to say that it started shipping, and or it's starting to ship now.
Yeah, it started. Mm-hmm.
When you work on something like that and you bring it to a consulting firm, and look, this is just like Brittany said, there's education, but there's also working hand in hand with them to make sure that they understand the capabilities, and so they can be innovative. How do you guys do that?
Yeah, I think we work with consultants throughout the process, and they bring different kinds of value, in different places. So when a concept comes up to a new product, that's not to all products we are discussing with consultants, but oftentimes we do, and always we consult with our own sales offices and technical teams within the offices, and then they sometimes have a dialogue with consultants. So they are bringing us a lot of value in terms of what other companies are doing, what's available, what's not available, and just give us, very sometimes even tactical tips about what to do here, what to do there. And then throughout the life cycle of the product, of course, the role of the consultant changes to also give us some input as to what can be improved, but also projects where this technology will apply and innovative ways to be using it. So I think consultants to us are very, very critical. The countries, our approach and the accessibility to consultant is actually varying between from country to country. In some countries, and it's oftentimes just the way the local team is working, the country manager, do they have the local relationships, how much they're investing in it. It really varies among the countries. The countries that do it very well, they actually leverage the consultant route very, very well, in many directions, and not the least of which is just to know what's happening in the market in terms of projects and where our technologies can apply. So very important part of our ecosystem are the consultants. So.
Yeah, I would actually say it would echo that here in the States, because it's also regional here, right? Yeah. Where there are parts of the country in the U.S. that heavily rely on consulting, right? There are other parts that don't, and I don't have a reason for that, right? We've been doing this for a number of years, and I've gotten to know some really great tech managers, some really great Fortune 500 companies, and some really great integration firms. And the integration firms, at least in the Midwest, which is where I'm located, and those are the folks I know most intimately. They're design build, right? They a lot of their business is design build, and they build their relationships with the client. And then you move out to the coast, whether it's the East Coast or the West Coast, and a lot of those projects, especially those bigger projects, are consultant driven, right? So, Margot, I want to bring you on this, both from the standpoint that you are on the East Coast, and also, as many tech managers as you talk to on a daily and a weekly basis, what are they looking for when it comes to bringing in a consultant, right? What are they after? Because again, it's regional. So my experience directly with consultants is I have a few, but you've got a lot more than I do.
I think it dovetails exactly with what Aviv was saying about relationships and how a product or a platform can change and evolve over a life cycle. So now as we move, and this really connects with what Joey was doing with Utelogy, with more software-based AV platforms, and whether it's the QSys from QSC or the Utelogy U command. So the consultant can offer a bigger picture, perhaps, or not just a kind of one and done. Here's what kind of endpoints are going to be great for now, but over the life cycle of a product or a project, I think that is extremely valuable expertise, something that can be nurtured, but from an agile approach. So almost like a business coach in a way. That's what I see, offering tremendous value, thinking about solutions over the long term. And I want to give great credit to Megan Dutta, who did the story with Joey. It's a really fun and engaging story, so I definitely recommend folks to read it and check it out on AV Network. And I just want to lift up one of the things that Joey was saying about his new consulting company, besides the forward-thinking approach. But one of the key elements of his new consulting firm is utilizing a decentralized project engagement approach. Everyone works from home, and everyone will be where they are needed. So I think that's really exciting. It's a new era. We're moving away from silos, and I think that he can reflect that in his new approach. And I just see great things on the potential, for him and for that. It's a new model in a way too. So I'm really excited. He's very passionate, and I think that comes through clearly. So I think it really is an exciting change.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, wrapping up here, folks. This comes to us from our friends over at Commercial Integrator, and it's a simple question. They're doing a webinar, or it's a quiz actually, and we'll put a link on our page. But Aviv, I'm going to start with you and simply ask you what they've asked. Where do you see pro AV business opportunities? And I'm going to give you a timeline in the next year. So look ahead to 2018. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, so for us here in the States, that means that in 7 weeks it will be 2018. Good God. So where do you see pro AV business opportunities in the next year?
Yeah, no, the quiz was quite interesting. I actually took the quiz with all three questions of that, and some of them didn't totally apply because they were asking, why are you an integrator? So I'm not an integrator, but I replied, if I would be an integrator, what I would be an integrator for. And the one question I liked is that sort of, got me stuck a little bit. Which customer trend is the biggest factor for your organization? And actually, that was an interesting one because...
That's unfair for a manufacturer, though.
No,
all y'all make everything.
Yeah, it was interesting. Your customers are increasingly making decisions out of their IT department. Well, okay, that's a trend, and that's important. It's actually impacting a lot of what we're doing. Second one, there are fewer new customer prospects in your verticals. Okay, that's maybe a list. Your customers lean on you to learn about new products. Well, that's great. I mean, that's definitely a position I'd like to be in. I want more and more customers that rely on us to learn about what's happening in the technology. I think, by the way, most manufacturers, we certainly do. We want to be in that position. We want to see ourselves as advisors to our customers and also to our integrators, but also to end customers. And then the last one was your customers are going global. I think that's also very important, because if you know that you can actually expand your services and create much more value with a company that is growing global. Not only the company is growing, but it's facing different challenges that are particularly interesting to what we are trying to do as a solution providers, because we talk about, global management platform. We talked about data as a resource for the organization. So there are a lot of things here that really matter. So not sure if I'm probably not totally answering your question.
No, you're fine.
I was intrigued by this survey. It was nice. It was cute.
Absolutely. All right, Ms. Dawahi, where do you see some of the biggest opportunities over the next year or so?
I think emerging technologies, IoT, bringing in artificial intelligence, whether But I don't necessarily have a feeling about it either way. I'm still investigating it, doing my due diligence as someone who edits and analyzes and explores the industry from an impartial perspective. But I do see them increasingly coming into the conversation, whether it's AI intelligence in digital signage applications or cognitive rooms in commercial verticals. I think that's a really interesting angle. And in fact, in our December edition, we have an article by the fantastic Steve Greenblatt of Control Concepts, who breaks down a kind of one-button myth about the IoT and how it involves a tremendous amount of specialty to bring in the simplicity, the insights gleaned by IoT and AI and Pro AVs. But I definitely look at that as a great space of potential.
All right. Yes, he was a good guy. He's actually he's delving in after our last New York Digital Signage Week experience. He's actually I think he's gonna, next month on his show, A State of Control. He's going to look at how control and automation and IoT those and control, all those things kind of interact with each other. So yeah, good resource. All right, Mr. Bruce, you'll have the last word on this. What do we have ahead for next year?
Well, you asked the question, I think, where is the opportunity for Pro AV next year? My answer is, where is it not? It seems to me that the opportunity is abundant. I was at a holiday party last night, and there were people there from all of the big Silicon Valley companies you could imagine, plus a lot of really cool startups. And a group of us were in the kitchen talking, as people do at these kind of parties, and the theme that kept coming up over and over again in the conversation is, I have people that know a lot of things, sometimes deep specialty knowledge in a particular area. How do I make them available to other people in the organization, to my customers, to get involved in supply chain issues? How do I make people essentially ubiquitous?
Okay.
And by making talent available everywhere all the time, when and where it's needed. And I just thought that was interesting. I mean, there were people from some very big companies who are facing real challenges, right? I have a specialist who knows this kind of operation better than anybody else in my company. She's based in Berlin, and I'm having a problem today in Hong Kong. How do I get her involved seamlessly, quickly, and deeply in the conversation that we have about solving a particular process issue? And I think that's the fascinating part of this, and it goes to a lot of the technology that Margot talked about, to AI and VR and lots of other things. But at the end of the day, that technology is in service of a goal, a problem, and is employed by somebody who knows how to use it, right, to address an issue. So I think the opportunity is really about figuring out how it is that their customers work and listening closely to the discussions about ubiquity. How do I move intelligence from one place to another, whether that's machine or AI aided, but it's ultimately about a person. How do I make a person available to help me wherever the problem happens to be and wherever they happen to be?
Mm-hmm. Very good. I like that thought, and I like that last word, so we'll stick with that. Thank you also very much for joining us and for giving me, giving at least you two, some time right before Thanksgiving. I appreciate it. Mr. Aviv Ron, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Tim, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you. How do people find you and or Kramer?
Okay, so I'm Aviv Ron. It's Aaron at kramerl.com, and Kramer is kramerav.com.
All right, very good. Ms. Duahi, it's always good to hang out with you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
See you. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And to everyone, I'm grateful for this community. So tweet me at AV Technology Mag. And if you're, doing some holiday Netflixing and you see some great Pro AV inserting itself into mainstream storytelling, take a screenshot and tweet me, because I've been I was watching Black Mirror and I saw these great just examples of video walls and visualization. And I think that certain elements of our storytelling world are getting AV really right and interesting. So I posted a blog about that. So,
Yes.
if you see any cool touch panels or pro AV in the shows that you like, send me a tweet.
The problem is right now I'm still going through season 2 of Stranger Things and there's no cool AV. So
You're not done yet? You didn't binge watch it the first day?
No, my kids wanted to get into it, and so we went through season 1 again. And now I'm in love with it because I was these kids' age in 83 and 84, so I'm nostalgia. So, Mr. Brady Bruce, how can people find you or In Focus?
So we're at www.infocus.com and on all the usual social media hangouts. And I can be reached directly at brady.bruce@infocus.com.
Right.
I'm stoked to see all of you guys in February. It's coming up quickly at ISE.
Yeah, absolutely. You and Aviv can go to the same coffee joint, right? There's a coffee joint right between halls 1 and 2. So
yeah. By the way, I'm starting a petition about swapping the timing between Infocom and ISE. What do you guys think?
Good luck with that.
It would be so much better
to
be in June in Amsterdam and in February in Florida or Las Vegas for that matter.
Yeah, let me know how that works between Mr. Blackman and Mr. Labuskis and whoever.
I'm sure I'll be the first one to offer that. They've never heard it before.
No, I'm certain. At least 3 or 4 times every show. So,
all right.
All right. My name is Tim Albright. I actually will be heading to Amsterdam in about 3 or 4 months to go hang out with IAC. But we got a lot of stuff to do between now and then. All that stuff is going to be at the website, AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others while you were there. Check out our underwriter section. These are the folks who support us financially, help us do things like this, bring you New York Digital Signage Week, bring you ISE. Come the first week of February. Kramer Electronics is one of those, so we thank them for their support and all of our underwriters. So check that out if you would please. Also check out a brand new program that we've actually done one episode of this so far. It's called the AV Profession. Is where we talk about the actual business of AV and hopefully help you do your business better. We are interviewing business leaders and business authors. Our first one was with a gentleman by the name of Ian Altman, who wrote the book Same Side Selling. Coming up in about a week, we'll be interviewing Stephen M.R. Covey, the author of The Speed of Trust. So all that and more at avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been AV Week.